Hi there everybody, this is David, and today I've got a pretty cool gem to showcase to y'all. It's called Prelude Dark Pain, but it might as well be called something like Gritty Dark Final Fantasy Tactics, cause that's pretty much what it is. And I got a chance to play an exclusive demo just the other day, and I do want to tell you all about it. And hey, if tactical RPGs with the side of like despair sounds like your jam, then maybe consider hitting that sub button as I try to level up in the algorithmic dungeon that is YouTube. And not only is this game serving some dark Final Fantasy tactics in spades, but it has some serious pedigree behind it too. Kumi Tanioka, the composer of the Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles series, is on board doing the music. Yeah, and not only that, I got to interview her too. The first thing that I wanted to ask her was how the world of Prelude Dark Pain compares to her past work, especially in Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. And here's what she told me. She said, in Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, the world was shrouded by an expanded miasma, and the player had to protect their town from it. That one was a cruel story, but it still differs from how I interpret the world of Prelude Dark Pain. While Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles had a real cruel atmosphere, people in their world had a very optimistic take on life, and that's what you can get from the bucolic and pleasant music. There's something scary about that gap, which became one of the key elements of the soundtrack. But all in all, the calmness of the world is what defines the OST. In Prelude Dark Pain, there's no territory to defend. The player is constrained in a world where life and death are inches apart. The elements of dark fantasy feel really strong. If this game was an anime, that merciless world would bring to mind Fist of the North Star. So, I don't know about y'all, but I am 100% here for that Fist of the North Star vibe. I used to watch that back in the early 90s myself. It has a brutal world, tragic lives, desperate survival, but with some turn-based tactics. Just inject that into my veins. Then, whenever I asked her how this project stands out from her past work, she had this to say. The visual elements are the first thing that strikes me as different. There is not a game like this, with similar aesthetics, that's made in Japan. That feels pretty fresh to me since I'm also a newcomer in this genre. In the trailer, we see one character eating something that resembles a rat, and I particularly think that would be great to see more comical depictions like that one in this game. So, well, yes, while the game does lean dark, there is some room for some weird humor too, which honestly makes the world feel more human, more lived in, and also just weird enough to make you uneasy. Now, let's talk about the demo. When they first launched their Kickstarter, they smashed their goal in only 12 hours. So that tells you two things. One, people are hungry for a new Final Fantasy Tactics style game, and two, this thing already has some serious clout. The demo that I played lasted roughly 30 or so minutes. The text is in English, but the voice acting is in Spanish. At least for now, because you will be able to choose your language in the final version. Only the cutscenes are voiced, presented in some sort of like gritty comic book style that still manages to look unique and fresh. I personally totally dug it. It added tension and flavor without getting in the way. In battle dialogue, though, is unvoiced. The story opens on Soren, a blacksmith whose wife gets accused of being a witch after she goes into the forest to pray to the Lord of Ecstasy. Yeah, really. And now the whole family is on the chopping block. Quite literally. So naturally, Soren grabs his axe and goes dad mode and escapes to rescue her. Gameplay-wise, if you have played Tactics Ogre or Final Fantasy Tactics, you will be right at home. Movement, attacking, defending, skill usage, you can do them here in any order. And the skill system is wild. You get 2 skill points per turn, and you can save up to 4. So if you want to, you can move, attack, and then slam 4 skills back to back. I don't know if that's supposed to be that way or if it's a bug, but I didn't mind and it felt good and I was tearing through those mobs like a hot knife through butter. There's also positional damage. Backstabs and side hits matter. Turn order is shown in the top right gauge, and each mission gives you bonus conditions, like finishing with everybody alive or completing the battle in a set number of turns, and that'll give you some extra loot. I love that kind of reward system. It turns every single battle into a puzzle and a performance. It also supports controller as well as mouse and keyboard support, and there's a 2x speed toggle. Surprisingly though, I didn't use the speed up all that much, because the pacing actually felt pretty good on its own. The second mission is where it gets a little bit spicy. There's this cart chase, which was cool in theory. During the first half, I could board the enemy cart like it was like Final Fantasy meets Mad Max, but during the second phase, for some reason, I couldn't get on their cart anymore. And it also introduced something called push tiles, which should, keyword, have let me knock the enemies off the moving platforms, but nothing lit up and I couldn't do it. Also, the game claimed that I could rotate the camera, but none of my controller buttons did anything. Maybe it's a PC-only feature, maybe I'm just dumb, but I hit every single button on that controller and nothing did anything. So yeah, bugs are present, but this is pre-alpha and it's not even a public demo, so some things still need ironing out. But even in its rough state, it still feels like it's going to be something special. I wasn't done with my interview just yet though, and I had to ask her what inspired her when she was composing the whole OST, and here's what she had to say. This time, the inspiration I drew from the story and the visual was huge. With death lurking at every corner, I never experienced such extreme circumstances in real life. But we shouldn't forget that rooted in all this tragedy, there is fantasy. I might be letting my imagination run wild though. That personally is what I love to hear, that blend of horror and imagination, that dark, fantastical realism. It's exactly what makes this game stand out. It's the music of a world that's trying not to die, but maybe knows that it's doomed anyway. Then, I had to also ask her about the overarching theme of the game and what her music is trying to say. Here's what she had to say about that. I'm still trying to grasp all the elements that shape the world. I just started dipping my toes into its water, the drive to survive, to tear reality apart, leaving that cruel world behind. It's difficult to explain. Fighting with a strategy to finish the battle in one piece, yet having to repeat the same once and again creates tension and makes you feel nervous. At the same time, you don't want this fantasy to ever become a reality. You want to bring some peace to the inhabitants of the world. So measuring their crude reality and finding some room for that peace is what I'm trying to do while I'm still creating the music. And man, if all that doesn't sound like the heart of a proper tactical RPG, I don't know what does. That balance between crushing difficulty and the fragile hope of survival. That's what keeps us coming back to these games. We want to fight, we want to think, and somewhere in all that darkness, we want to believe that peace is still possible, and I am holding out hope for this. But what do y'all think? Are you going to be keeping your eye on Prelude Dark Pain? Do you see those Final Fantasy Tactics fingerprints all over it? Let me know in the comments, and we can all talk and chat about it. And if you like this video, I've got another one right here that I really do think that you'll thoroughly enjoy. So go ahead and click on that, leave me a like, maybe a comment, and subscribe if you like the content. But as always, have a good day.